Detention, and I want to say thank you for coming out and being part of this. I think it's very helpful for us to come into the community, to learn firsthand about issues. One of the issues that we have been talking about and will continue to talk about is the mentally ill in our community. And I want to thank General Nichols for bringing it to the Commission's attention several months ago, and I know that there have been committees working on this, Sheriff and his staff, and thanks to the Sheriff for having us here today. But before I turn it over to the Sheriff, I'd like for everybody to kind of introduce themselves. So if you would start here, we'll just go around the room.
I'm Chief Rodney Bibbins. I'm the Director of Corrections with the Sheriff's Office.
I'm Allison Rogers, the Finance Director.
I'm Amy Broyles. I'm a County Commissioner representing the 2nd District where we hope the Safety Center will be located, and I'm recording this to put on YouTube for my constituents.
I'm Jerry Maglione, the Operations Officer at the Helen Ross Rehab Center.
Grant Rosenberg, Director of Community Development, Knox County.
Mike Dunthorne, a staff member in the 10-year plan and chronic homelessness office.
Jeff Lundby, County Commissioner representing the 4th District.
Members of the media, you can introduce yourselves too, Mike.
Say something.
Don't be on YouTube.
He will.
You're in the wrong seat.
I'm Mike Tonello with the News Sentinel.
I'm Andy Black with the Helen Ross Rehab.
And I'm Ann Woodle, and I'm here, and wearing my hat as President of the Board of Directors for Child and Family in the City and Augusta Sheriff Council.
I'm Michelle Carriger, former County Commissioner of District 7, and here because I have family members that deal with this on a day-to-day basis, and so probably one of the biggest problems we have in Knox County, and to support our sheriff and all the Knox County people and how we're going to resolve this.
Ed Shouse, for 8 days now, Knox County Commissioner, District 11.
Let's go back to back. Mike?
Mike Brown, the further south, we can't tell time out there, so.
And who thought the meeting was at 5?
30.
Martha Dooley, Knox County Sheriff's Office. I'm with Media Relations.
I'm Cliff Tennyson. I'm the Chief Clinical Officer at Helen Ross Rehab Center.
Randy Nichols, District Attorney's Office.
Kelly Johnson with the Law Director's Office.
Sam McKenzie, 1st District, Knox County Commissioner.
Tony Norman, 3rd District, County Commissioner.
Rick Sawyer, I'm the Adult Corrections Coordinator for Helen Ross Rehab.
I'm Kate O'Day, President and CEO of Child and Family Tennessee.
Larry Smith, County Commissioner and historian.
Dave Wright, 8th District County Commission, and I'm only 3 miles away from home.
Instead of in Morristown, right?
Yeah, and it's halfway to Marston.
I have trouble getting the passage across the room.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Kelly. I'm Director of Client Operations with Child and Family Tennessee.
Great. Well, thanks again for you all being here, and I'd like to turn it over now to Sheriff Jones. Sheriff, thank you so much for hosting us here today.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to be kind of brief. I'm allergied out. So what we hope to accomplish here today is to talk about the Safety Center, how it will work hand in hand with the Crisis Stabilization Unit, how it will work with supportive housing, some of the things that we've done and been through. General Nichols and I have served on numerous committees along with the commissioners, and this has been an ongoing process for several years. And we hope that it's about to come to a head where we can move on and maybe put some bricks and mortar on the ground and move on with this. So I'm going to turn it over to Andy, and I want to say this: if you have any questions, raise your hand and ask them right then. You know, this is going to be very informal, and anything that you want to know or need to know, hopefully we can tell you. If not, we can find an answer. So please, this is for you all to ask questions about anything that you need to ask about. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all very much. The Helen Ross Rehab Center has been providing forensic services and mental health services in the Knox County Jail and for Knox County for the past 27 years. We also, as an aside, provide mental health services for Blount County and for the Blount County Sheriff there as well. About 3.5 years ago, maybe even 4, because of the McNabb Center's history with the providing mental health services in our community, I was invited to represent the center on a criminal justice committee that Mayor Ragsdale had put together and had been ongoing for a number of years. And it had wide representation across the community. And as a result of that criminal justice committee, the stated goal of the committee was to address jail overcrowding. And to look at primarily people who were mentally ill, who were in the jails, and on any given day, 18 to 25% of the 11, I don't know what the daily census was today.
1098 at 8 o'clock, I didn't see 5 o'clock count before I left. We're 1,098 locked up at 8 o'clock this morning.
So of 1,100 people who are incarcerated in the jail system in Knox County, any given time, 18 to 25% of those folks are going to be severely and persistently mentally ill. And you'll hear more about those folks in just a minute from Cliff and from Rick Sawyer. So our goal was to develop a plan to reduce jail overcrowding, focusing on people who are severely and persistently mentally ill, people who were publicly intoxicated, and nonviolent offenders. And so as a result of that charge, this continuum of services or care was developed around how to address jail overcrowding. And it had basically 4 components. It had a safety center, which Jerry Wagner is going to describe what a safety center is. It had a crisis stabilization unit, which is up and running as of February of '09. And we've seen more than 1,600 people in that facility who have been diverted from the hospital. Something like 95% of those folks have been diverted from a higher level of care. So that program is up and running. The third was to begin to, for people who would come through the safety center, to look at providing substance abuse and mental health treatment for those folks who would come through the safety center. The third was to look at helping to develop temporary supported housing and permanent supported housing so that people would have a place to go to once they cleared the crisis stabilization unit or the safety center. A location was identified. Commissioner Broyles and then Commissioner Harmon and Councilman Becker and the neighborhood leadership met at our facility along with General Nichols and several other people, Grant Rosenberg, and the neighborhood leadership they weren't just okay with the facility being there, they were supportive of the facility being located there.
And Andy, can I point out that was the neighborhood leadership of Oakwood Lincoln Park Neighborhood Association?
Thank you. And that location is on Springdale Avenue, West Springdale Avenue, for those of you who are familiar with Central Avenue. It's up from the Rankin Restaurant and behind Gill's Steamboat Sandwich Shop. And the property goes into that old Dempster industrial site there. So once we had the location, once we had the concept of this continuum of care, which included the safety center, crisis stabilization unit, treatment, and supported housing, then we moved forward. Knox County Purchasing released an RFP, a request for proposals for the safety center. The McNabb Center responded to that proposal, and we were awarded the proposal. So that was one part of it. The second part of it was to come up with a capital plan which would not require Knox County having to look at bond issuance or to reach into the general fund to support it. And so the idea was advanced to take CDBG dollars, Community Development Block Grant dollars, and there is a Section 108 program that's a part of the Community Development Block Grant program through HUD. Knox County receives an allocation, an annual allocation of $1 million or so. And so through this Section 108 program, you can borrow monies against future appropriations at a very reduced interest rate. And so we, with the help of Knox County, have a consultant who is helping us develop that capital piece to this particular project. And when we met with him a month ago or 3 weeks ago, he was really impressed with this concept of a safety center, that it was innovative, that it was unique, and that he had really never seen anything or heard anything like it in the country. So that's kind of the background and the history of where we are right now. And I'd like to call on Jerry Wagner, who's the operations officer at the McNabb Center, to talk about what a safety center is and what it would look like and who it would serve.
Thank you, Andy. Good afternoon, everybody. The way I like to talk about a safety center is really it's a community solution to a community problem that we've been struggling with. You've heard the context of that problem that Andy's described. So this community solution, if you will, is innovative, it's novel. There's not a lot of places in the country who've tried to attack their community problem that is similar to this like we have. And it's essentially an alternative to incarceration for folks who normally would end up here, as well as having components there that would also divert people from psychiatric hospitalizations, ERs, and other places where people go when they get picked up in the community by law enforcement. So think about it with me for a minute, if you will. This is a physical location. We've talked about where that is. We're thinking it's a facility that's about 10,000 square foot. This would be a place where people would be brought, and they would be brought there if they had a public intoxication charge or they had a disorderly conduct charge, some other nonviolent offense. And they were typically folks that we have studied for the last couple years. And they're folks who have a mental illness or an addiction issue, substance abuse issue in the community, that normally are going to get charged and they're going to spend the night in a facility like this, and they're going to spend about a day here. And then they're going to roll out of here. But that contributes to the jail population dramatically when you start to see the numbers and the volume that goes on. So we're looking for a place.
This 10,000 square foot place, is it already there or is this going to be built?
This will be a facility that would be built specifically designed for this purpose. And it would be at the location that Andy referenced.
So I want to mention what Andy, for all of you that don't know where Andy's talking about where his place is, he sort of act like it was like a hole in the wall. But let me tell you, your all's place is first class that you've got it there. It's very nice facilities that you have.
Thank you.
And they've agreed, just to throw it in, they've also agreed to move their crisis stabilization unit on the same land with the safety center, so they will be hand-to-hand, no transportation, no back and forth, all together in one area.
Yeah.
So what is that center now, the crisis stabilization?
Yeah, the Crisis Stabilization Center that we operate, as Andy's referenced, we've operated for a little over 18 months, is actually right now in Knox County off Ball Camp Pike in our facility there. That's where it's currently located. And for efficiency's sake, for the population that we're trying to tend to, both of these services need to be under the same roof, so that when law enforcement comes, they can do an expedited drop-off. What we don't want to have happen is have our law enforcement all tied up waiting. That situation happens in other situations around the community right now. We don't want to repeat that. But they would actually come with that individual. That individual would have to agree that they would come and be served in that facility.